And so, yeah, that's what we started. It was just like this, like, I just want to show people the hunter's heart differently because I couldn't find it. And I was looking for it because I was trying to teach my boys how to hunt. They were asking me questions. I couldn't answer those questions.
Well, and transparently, it didn't mesh with the industry at the time.
Still doesn't.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, hard to believe, but Deer Grow has been the sponsor that's been there since the beginning of the HUNTR Podcast. Back in 2021, I think that they were the only partner that we had, but it's such a cornerstone brand and set of products for our food plot strategy throughout the year.
No doubt. And it seems like we used to have an off season, but not so much anymore. It's like when the hunting season ends, it really rolls right into food plot season, habitat projects, all of the above. And the Plot Start and Plot Boost have been there since the very beginning. That's a cornerstone for all of our plots. The Plot Start goes on at the beginning, Plot Boost goes on midway through. And since they came out with all of the fertilizers, that gets mixed in with the Plot Boost application as well. And I can't believe the results that we've been getting out of that.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Like I said, it's all the work now that really produces the results in the fall. So right now, anyone listening to HUNTR Podcast can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for 15% off any of the products at deergrow.com.
Better food plots, bigger deer.
And we're back.
Hey,
HUNTR Podcast, sneaking up on 300 here.
I guess we are, kind of.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. We'll be there before the end of the year.
5 years into this thing, sneaking up on it.
I know it. So, well, hey, before we get going, I will thank you guys for being here, whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast. Those are the three main platforms that we drop these episodes on, and we do that every Tuesday and Thursday night at 6 p.m. Eastern time, at least for the duration of the season here. Maybe in January sometime we'll kick back just to Tuesday nights, but for now, we'll keep rocking the doubles. If you have written us on Instagram DM or the website, those are two platforms that we check the most frequently. Always have to apologize for being slightly behind there, especially on the website stuff. But
a little bit. Just a little bit.
We'll get there. A lot of you guys have bought stuff on the website. We have some HUNTR merch there. I assume leading up to Christmas there and stuff. So appreciate that. We'll try to keep that stuff coming from you guys, some new design stuff like that. And in the meantime, and especially leading up to this Christmas season here, you guys can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, on any of our partners' websites for a discount of some way, shape, or form. And other than that, here we
go. Mid-December, if you're listening to this. We're filming it on the 9th. I think this is like next week sometime. Yeah, so we're pretty real time at this point.
Yep.
Just a little bit offset.
We're out of the scheduling, around the rut stuff. So I don't know, dude. I don't know sometimes how we pull that off,
It's intense. Emily was like, what's your day look like today? I'm like, podcast. She's like, is that every day? And I'm like, sometimes it
seems like
that way.
It, doesn't it?
Sometimes
it
feels
doesn't.
that way.
We stack them somehow, but
yeah. Well, it's the 2-a-days plus the hunt companion, like or 2 week. It's
a commitment.
It's a commitment.
Proud of you. Proud of us.
Hey.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, nice job. Yeah. Hey, well done.
So, but yeah, it's tough. I mean, the only one we're just doubling up now because we've got Christmas coming up.
That's way worse than what I was drinking.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Well, that's because you got your expressos and stuff.
Yeah, I think she sabotaged me with some flavored coffee this morning.
Oh, really?
She put some kind of Dubai chocolate coffee in there, maybe. But it looked good.
This is not.
It looked good. No, this is
just black.
Just black.
Black water.
I don't mind it black, but
black water. Yeah. So yeah, we're just kind of dancing around the holidays here coming up. And
speaking of coffee here, I didn't tell you, I mixed it up a little bit. In the spirit of recent conversation we had here, I picked up a Yeti Rambler.
Yep.
And so they don't have a trigger mug that I'm aware of, which I'm like, it could be
just a standard lid flipper or whatever.
Could be problematic. So what they have is it's also a 16 ounce, just like this, but the lid is
yeah.
It's a screw top.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, I'm like, not as easy as the trigger. But the one problem I do have with these is putting it into my pack. I do get a little afraid that
just a little push,
enough pressure on that, it'll drain
in
your bag.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So I'm like, I'll try it.
I get it.
I'll try it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
There's definitely some. I used the Yeti for a long time on that. I still do. I just not today.
Mug it up.
Are
you one of those psychopaths that takes a mug like that in your truck?
No. I don't do that. I don't. No, I don't. I definitely have a normal travel type thing.
Yeah.
With me. So, anyways, we got a cool guest today. We got Robbie Kroger from Blood Origins. This has been like a long time coming on
I
this
feel
side.
like it, yeah.
Podcast veteran on the other side.
Yeah.
Brother, yeah. So it'll be nice to kind of bring that in. Where it goes, I don't know, because obviously Robbie, we were just talking about it. He's been gone for like 3 weeks over in Africa and
so
just bouncing.
For brief context, and you can explain this better than I can, but Robbie was a professor of yours.
Yeah, Mississippi State. So Robbie was on in the aquaculture fisheries side of things, and I was on the wildlife side of things. So, yeah. So, same time at Mississippi State. I want to say that I was out of Mississippi State and graduated, and then Robbie left after I did.
Okay.
And essentially pursued. He can give the context. He left. I think he went and worked for a private company for a while, and at the same time had the idea around Blood Origins, and just knowing that he wanted to do something there. And even that, it'll be a cool lesson just to go through with him how that has morphed and changed over the last 8 years and 10 years, something like that. At least 7 or 8.
It's been that long? Well, because because that was kind of the next phase. There was like he was a client of yours or of ours, So you helped him originally with at least some website design stuff like that, maybe some video production.
Yep. Yes. And and that was kind of the initial pathway of Blood Origins and trying to be conservation awareness content organization. Which now has formed into like a nonprofit at this point.
Yeah, well, and he's come a long way since. So and I think now it's the Origins Foundation. So they've rebranded, and so I think that'll be the point of today is to hear that journey, from the horse's mouth, I guess, and also to hear where and what they're working on now, which is exciting.
Yeah, because what Robbie's tied into from like a not just even here at home, but like from a global perspective is like the unique challenges of like hunting and conservation worldwide. And even, we did some of it here in the Hunt Companion this morning, but it's like, we talk about it from a micro level, which is like the state side of things, particularly on deer, but other wildlife, migratory birds, etc. He's looking at it on a global perspective, and it's like everybody's got their challenges. It's just where are their opportunities to continue to, make positive impacts. And I'll be interested to hear his take on what he believes are still positive success opportunities and others that are just an uphill battle, to say the least. If there is improvements that can be made and where we're missing, even as just general hunters and wildlife conservationists in the States, at least.
Yeah, well, just like we were talking earlier, like sometimes it's helpful to just look at people who are having success with different management strategies and stuff. And
we talked to Pedro.
Not every area is the same, but in the same light, if you zoom out and talk to people like Pedro or like Robbie who are involved in organizations that are worldwide, it's like there's a lot to be learned. There's not just one right way to do it in a lot of cases here. So I'm hopeful that we'll come away with this with something, maybe some new perspective on things I
think Pedro's was a great podcast to be sitting there and like zoom out from what he's doing in Spain and be like, that sounds amazing.
Did
like
you see my message
how's
the
that
other day?
possible?
I said, hey, buddy, I said, hope you're doing well. Hope you're whacking every spotted fawn you can. I said, for management practices, of course.
Of course, obviously. He's like, you guys don't kill fawns? Oh, okay. It's just me. So anyways, let's bring in Robbie. Hey, Robbie Kroger.
Jeremy Flynn. How are you?
I'm good, man. We always put people at bay in the early intro there, and I try to not bite your tongue too much when we're just leading into that stuff.
I was constantly going.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So, but anyways, man, a long time coming, I think, on this one.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I really do, man. It doesn't matter whether the podcast is 1 million strong or 2 strong.
Yeah.
I'm always humbled to talk to somebody who wants to talk to me. And we obviously have a lot to say. We have our fingers in a lot of pies, and just love to have conversations around cool things that like you're interested in and I'm interested in.
Well, I mean, if anything, our guests will listen and they'll say, well, Robbie's got the coolest voice of anyone we've had on the podcast.
Well, let me tell you about my voice.
Brother, let me tell you, brother. It's fun to repeat. So.
Yeah. I've been going through South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Zambia for the last 3.5 weeks. And I'm standing in South Africa and I'm talking to someone. And the person says to me, where are you from? And it hurts my heart so badly.
You're like, what do you mean?
Exactly. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm South African. No, you're not South African. And I was like, I've been in America 22 years. And they're like, oh, that's your accent.
Yeah. That's it.
So, yeah.
Maybe you slipped out a y'all or something, and they really just picked that one up.
No, I just try to like learn my Afrikaans back in my brain.
Yeah.
And so I stood in front of the Namibian Professional Hunters Association probably 4 days ago and opened up talking in Afrikaans and then switched to German and then switched to English, and I got a round of applause. So
Jeez,
that was good.
That's impressive.
So, Robbie, your parents are originally from South Africa? That's where you were born and raised?
No, it's a great question. So if you want to keep up, here is the makeup of my DNA. My grandfather was born in Khabarovsk, which is northeast Russia, a little town there. He was born to a Russian mother and a German father.
Mm-hmm.
He then married my grandmother, who's German. They then went back after World War II, or during World War II, went back to northern China. My father and aunt were born in northern China.
Wow.
They immigrated to Mozambique in the early 50s. My mother's Australian, pure and through. Traced back all the way to convicts being sent on a ship from England. I was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Oh, no way.
Moved to South Africa when I was 3, and then literally spent half my life in South Africa, and left South Africa when I was 24 to come to the University of Mississippi to do a PhD, and have never left.
Were your parents like involved with the military or missionaries or something like that?
No, and I think this gives you a good sense of who I am. And when you understand, or you followed the Origins Foundation, or Blood Origins as it used to be known, it sort of gives you an indication of how I'm built because of my genetic makeup. My father was a mining engineer and my mom was a geologist. And so my mom was a geologist working in London for a mining house from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, being South African, because of a prior British colony, South Africans used to get into England very easily from a work visa perspective. And they used to be able to work. So my dad had been in England waiting for his work visa to come in and be recognized. So he was doing DIY work and stuff like that on the side. And the mining house called him on Thursday and said, hey, your work visa's in. You can start work on Monday. And he says, nope, I'm starting work tomorrow. And he rocked up on Friday at the mining house. And my mother's last day of work was that Friday at the mining house.
Wow.
And that's how they met.
Close call.
Holy cow.
Very cool.
And if my father was still alive today, he would say that Oliver in Australia was still waiting for my mom to come back to Australia to see him.
Cool. And then Robbie, what brought you to the States from South Africa?
Yeah, so growing up in South Africa, you as a young man or a young boy who has an interest in wildlife or an interest in the outdoors, you want to, kids want to be policemen, they want to be firemen, they want to do all the things that you guys want to do here. But we also want to become game rangers. And game rangers are essentially the Land Rover jockeys, the guys that drive the American tourists around. You stop, there's an elephant, that's a cow elephant. Oh, let me tell you about this tree, the marula tree, and how it makes animals drunk when the fruit ferments on the ground. I wanted to be that guy. But soon came to realize that wasn't really much of a life or career that can be made there. And so I went into the university system and just, when I was 16 years old, tied to the whole story of what we're talking about today, when I was 16 years old, I went to the Okavango swamps with my grandfather. And it was like a rite of passage kind of trip for him for his first grandson. It was the first time I got drunk. I got drunk with him. The dude was like 85, flirting with every woman that came across his path.
Classic.
He was on this trip.
Yeah.
And sort of, and the Okavango swamps, if you want to know what that is, it's the Okavango River. It originates in the highlands of Angola and comes down the edge of Angola. And it used to turn to the west and go and dump into the Atlantic Ocean. but because of tectonic activities, it actually turned east. And it finishes in a desert. It essentially finishes in the Kalahari Desert. And so you've got this oasis, you've got this delta, which is what happens when a river hits an ocean, it deltas. It deltas in the middle of a desert. And it's a very hyper oligotrophic system, which means it's very nutrient poor. And so I remember riding on a boat when I was 16 years old, looking down into the water column and seeing hippo paths 10 feet underwater and hippo footprints and stuff. And I was like, man, I love this. I love swamps. And so when I first moved into the university system in South Africa, I wanted to study swamps. And again, the benefit of the colonial university system is that they expect you to know what you want to be. Unlike the American system says you have to take your prereqs, right? You have to take organic chem and all this bullshit that you're never going to use in your entire career. In South Africa, they said, oh, you want to be a scientist? You want to even be closer? You want to be an ecologist and not a molecular guy? You focus on all of the ecological topics. The only prereqs I had was chem, physics, and statistics. That was it. Other than that, I never took a genetics class in my life. I never took a molecular cell class in my life.
Because you didn't need it.
Didn't need it. I just focused on ecological topics. And so I just went to my professor, a professor at the time in the university, who would turn into my major professor. And I said, I want to study wetlands. What do I need to study? And he said, this. And he laid it all out for me. And so I got a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Conservation Biology. I then did an honors in Kruger National Park, which is, the premier tourist destination in South Africa even today, even with the elephant problems that it has. And we can get into elephants a little bit later. And I lived 3 months of my honors in Kruger, then went back for my master's, spent another 9 months in Kruger for my master's. And the South African system does not encourage you to move around. So I could have easily done a PhD. And the story goes, in that system, I was being funded by the Andrew Mellon Foundation, which is out of New York. And what they encourage South African students to come to the States to study under the scientists in the program. American students went to South Africa to do their field research. And so I came to America and I studied under a guy called Stuart Pickett and Mary Cadanasso up in the Institute of Ecosystem Studies in upstate New York, in Millbrook, upstate New York. This was 2000. This was October, November of 2000. So it was literally 2 months after September 11th. And I was challenged whilst I was at that institute to find a hero in writing. And because I was working on wetlands and especially wetland ecotones, which is the border between a wetland system and its upland compatriot, I found a piece of writing by a lady called Marjorie M. Holland. And I knew her research and incorporated what she did. And I used that and was like, I want to write like this. Well, fast forward at the end of my master's, I'm not too enamored with my system and being another 4 years under the same professor. So I started looking around the world. And I got accepted into 3 PhD programs. The first one was a fire island program for biodiversity in Australia. I got accepted into a crocodile research project in the Okavango swamps, which was like, I was like, oh man, this is exactly what I need.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, what am I going to become like afterwards? I'm just going to be like a croc research guy. At the time, Steve Irwin hadn't died yet.
Steve Irwin,
that spot's taken. Yeah.
He hadn't died yet. So I was like,
yeah, seat's taken.
And the other one was, I was accepted into a PhD program at the University of Mississippi with this lady that I had chosen as a hero in writing. And the story, it's just the email that I wrote to her was so specific. Like I said, this is who I am. This is who you are. This is what I've read about you. This is what I've incorporated. All sorts of things. And it's funny because as a professor at Mississippi State, when Jeremy and I met, I would get emails from foreign students daily. It was just a blanket email. I didn't respond to a single email from a foreigner. I just deleted. And I was one of those guys. But I was lucky enough to, write a very specific email that captured her attention. And she says, yeah, I got space for you. So long answer to a very short question. I came over to the States in 2003 to do a PhD.
Yeah, gotcha. And do you live here? Do you live here full time now, Robbie, or are you back and forth, or are you South Africa full time?
I'm an American citizen, baby.
Yeah.
2013, became a citizen. Married a girl from Memphis, Tennessee. Lisa finished her PhD at the University of Mississippi too. She has a PhD in 18th century Gothic literature. Yep. So she is a horror writer, and make sure you get that from an accent perspective. Horror, HORROR.
Okay.
Not WHORE.
Yeah, no, that way.
Okay. This is your wife is a horror writer?
Correct.
And so she writes what types of writing?
How to kill people every single day.
Are they like novels? Are they movie scripts?
She's got 2 nonfiction books. The first one won a lot of rewards. She just submitted a nonfiction book that we think is going to get, we hope is going to be picked up, called The Real Housewives of Howling Lane.
Okay.
It's all about the skincare Amway scheme where this clique of housewives, this young housewife wants to get into the clique. She wants to be known. She wants the clothes. She wants the money. And then she finds out that the skincare scheme is actually turning women grotesque abominations and zombies and shit like that.
That's awesome. Jeremy and I love stuff like that. Daily. This morning, he's like, "Oh, did you see that thing on Netflix?" It's basically the movie manifestation of the.
My wife would show you stuff that would make you guys go, "I don't want to watch that."
Yeah.
That's funny, man.
Yeah. So that's where I met her there, and yeah.
And now a Mississippi resident still, right?
I live in Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, you're in Memphis now.
Okay. I was in Mississippi for 22 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, we met at Mississippi State when I was a professor. A funny story. I know in the intro you mentioned things like, he was the aquaculture fisheries side, and I went deer. Obviously, I was getting into hunting then. Like I just got, when I was at Oxford at Ole Miss as a PhD student, I got introduced to hunting by a very good friend, best mate now. Just classic Mississippi redneck, 6'5", 260-pound dude. Got my hunter education, handed me a semi-automatic 308, gave me a chair, put me under a tree, and goes, "If something walks past, shoot it."
Classic.
And so I got to experience hunting there. But then when I got to Mississippi State, I got a little bit more opportunities. You got a little bit more money, that kind of stuff. And so I was hunting in the Delta in Mississippi at a friend's place. I was bow hunting. And when I arrived in camp, the biologist of the private farm had said to the guys, and this is bow season. So October 20, 21, 22. He's like, they're under a doe moratorium. And I was like, well, that's what I came here to hunt. Like, I can't hunt under one of the big bucks because it's one of those systems that if you are not absolutely sure it's 4.5 years old, you're not shooting anything. Right? Yeah. And everything that walks under your stand looks 3.5. And you're like, I'm not shooting that. And so.
What is that, Robbie? What is a doe moratorium?
You're not allowed to shoot does.
No does.
Oh, okay. All right.
No does. So in 6 stand sits, I saw 156 deer.
Oh, wow.
At a 6-to-1 ratio. So I was like, I was pissed. So I came home and I wrote an article, and it got published in Delta Magazine, the magazine that comes out of Delta Council. It goes to all the farmers, goes to everybody, about how a doe moratorium is antithetical to a big buck program. Now, as a reminder, I am the water quality guy in the department. So this comes out. I'm pretty proud of myself. And one morning, if my schedule is, I'm a 4:30 up kind of guy. I'm at Mississippi State. I was in the office by 6:10. I was one of the first people in there, and I'd get more work done in the first 2 hours than anybody because there would be no distractions. Well, like 7:45 one morning, Damaris, who was Flynn's professor, supervisor, his major advisor, comes into my office with the Delta Council magazine. He sits down in my chair and he puts the magazine on my desk and he's like, "Oh man, I saw your article in Delta Council magazine. was like, and I'm just like, it's brand new. I'm a young assistant professor, just like kicking ass and taking names. I'm like, oh man, thank you so much. And he goes, yeah, but you're not the deer biologist at the department, so stay in your lane. I was like, what? It was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But I was so pissed, man. I was just like,
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was my time at Mississippi State. That was my first job.
How long were you there, Robbie? When did you end up leaving?
So it's all about who you know in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd been there for 5 years. I started Jan 09.
Yep.
And this was 4.5 maybe. This is beginning, 09, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, it was this beginning of 13.
Yep.
That I'd done some work for the EPA, and obviously the BP oil spill happened in 2010.
That's right.
And in 2013, they stood up this brand new federal entity that got born out of the BP oil spill. And so they were loaning people in. They hired a financial officer and executive director. Everybody else got loaned in to help them stand up this entity.
Mm-hmm.
And so the deputy executive director that got loaned in was sitting around a kitchen table with the executive director, and they said, hey, we need to hire a chief scientist. And Ben Skaggs, his name was Ben Skaggs, said, I know who we're going to hire. And so the council, the Department of Commerce, reached out to Keenum and said, we want Robbie. You're going to loan him to us for a year. You're going to pay his salary. You're going to do everything. And he's coming to us. And that's what made me leave temporarily Mississippi State. And so I moved my family. This was November of 13. And I've put in my tenure packet at the time. So this is the very am I staying? Am I going? What's going on? Well, the thing that pushed me over the edge is that I remember Bruce Leopold at the time. I said, I'm putting in my tenure packet. And he says, don't do it. And I said, why? And he says, the provost will deny you because you haven't been here long enough. And I said, so you're telling me that I've brought in close to $5 million in research funding. I've published almost 90 times. That the only requisite for me to get tenure here is time. I was like, that's not a good look.
Yeah.
And so I was being exposed to this much, much bigger world through the council. And so I did that job at the council until July of 2014. We stood up $1 billion restoration framework from Texas to Florida. That was my job from a science perspective. And then the environmental consulting company that was helping the state of Mississippi do the same work in Mississippi reached out to me and said, we're looking for a chief scientist. Would you be willing to become our chief scientist? And essentially I did that for 9 years. And my job for the entire 9 years was to build the science strategy for restoration in Mississippi. And I loved it. I loved the job. It was,
You were in Biloxi for that time? Is that where you were?
Yeah, Gulfport, Mississippi. I lived in Bay St. Louis. We worked in Biloxi and Gulfport. And I just loved the job. For the first 4 or 5 years, I was the guy because the state didn't have capacity.
Right.
I was building capacity for the state. And, my job, again, the state would reach out and say, we need to spend $100 million this year. Like, what are we spending it on? And I was creatively allowed to build, this is what we're doing, and this is the sequence in which we're building it. And then halfway through that tenure, the administration changed. They gained scientific capacity. They put things in place that they needed to put in place, and I was essentially relegated, really. I was relegated to the bench. And that's when I started thinking more about what I wanted to do, like a passion hobby. And again, you're hunting more the whole time. And I started rereading my grandfather's stories, like this book. This is my grandfather's book. I started rereading his stories more. And I was obviously watching Sportsman's Channel and Outdoors Channel. And I was like, man, we're missing something here, man. This is, I think we can tell a different story of hunting. I really think we can. And at the time, I thought, maybe I wanted to become like a hunting influencer or,
we had those conversations.
Yeah. And that's when I called you. I was like, who do I know in this world? Because I don't know nobody. And I remember Jeremy Flynn. And Jeremy Flynn had moved on. You were working for
Cabela's.
You working for Cabela's.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. And I reached out and I said, man, I got this idea. I want to do it. And I don't know the first thing about what I'm doing. Can you help me?
And what a ride, dude.
Fucking hell. Stone Road Media straight away was like, yeah, let's do it. And I remember, like, I cannot even say thank you enough. I probably owe you a check of like 25 grand.
Oh, no, dude.
You were doing it for nothing. I had no money. And
well, it resonated with me is why.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
and,
yeah, it was just, it was, people look at the industry far too often and are just like, oh, it must be so cool. And like, look how it works. And like, but once you're in it and especially behind the scenes of it, it's kind of miserable.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt.
Should be no surprise to anyone listening to this that back with Hoyt another season. I'm actually going to be shooting the AX2 aluminum this year.
You traitor.
But you're still going RX9.
Yeah, blacked
carbon,
out as always.
Blacked out.
Yeah.
Big surprise for
80
everyone.
pounds. Big surprise. Yeah.
But seriously, man, I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Every year it seems like we get a new Hoyt bow in our hands, and they're always a step above the last and just a step above everybody else.
Yeah, they're so consistent, man. Just their processes get better, every year. And we've really been excited about, as we've grown with Hoyt, we've brought some others in with us. And we just feel like the Hoyt family is growing, like the community, and we're really excited about the people that are involved, excited to be a part of that company. And it's really awesome.
So for anyone that's excited about Hoyt like Jared and I are, you can use the code HUNTR, HUNTR, on Hoyt.com.
Get serious, get Hoyt. What was your basis, Robbie, and maybe, Jeremy, you can elaborate from some of those initial conversations of your dissatisfaction with the industry, with management here in the States? Like, what was the need that you saw that you felt like you could have an influence or impact on?
it was, number one, it was very straightforward for me. It was merely, and at the time, the other influence that was big in my life then was obviously I was teaching Sunday school with my wife,
Mm-hmm.
and I was watching a Christian testimonial project called I Am Second.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just filmed. So
We've seen those. You've seen those, right?
Yep.
Yeah. With the guy from Korn and Duck Dynasty's been on there. We've seen
Josh Hamilton. The
Josh
picture
Hamilton
from Texas Rangers, the one I still
Yeah,
remember today. And
Yeah,
I watched
okay.
that thing
9
years ago. I can tell you exactly what he said.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're
9 years ago.
moving.
Yeah, very much. Very powerful.
Moving,
Mm-hmm.
very interestingly filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a discomfort kind of filming. It looked like they had 100 cameras around the person.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, imagine a hunter spoke like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I was just like intrigued that I like people. I like meeting people. I like interacting. I'm an extrovert. I have 0 points in the Myers-Briggs scale when it comes to an introvert side of me. So I just love talking to people, getting to know them. And this world's all about relationships. So I guess we started this thing the right way in that we just built people's stories, number one. Number two, there was no ego to us or me. This wasn't like my stories. It was like, I just want to tell everybody else's. And actually in the beginning, I didn't want me involved at all.
Mhm.
And Jeremy was like,
Yeah.
I didn't want B-roll. I wanted to look like I'm second.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Jeremy was like, no, you have to put B-roll. I was like, fuck that, man. I don't want B-roll. Like, and it's still B-roll today. So obviously I did not get my way. But it was just a way to like, and Cuz Strickland, in the beginning, I had some good contacts,
Yep.
made some good inroads right away. And Cuz Strickland was one of those that said to me, he was like, you need to be a part of every episode. And I was like, Cuz, I don't want to be. Like, this is not about me. And he was like, no, you got an accent, you got acumen, be a part of it. You don't have to be your face, but your voice. And so for the first 2 or 3 years when I went to conventions, like ATA or Wild Sheep or anything like that, nobody knew who I was because nobody knew my face. But as soon as I started speaking,
They knew.
they knew my voice.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's what we started. It was just like this, like, I just want to show people the hunter's heart differently because I couldn't find it. And I was looking for it because I was trying to teach my boys how to hunt. They were asking me questions. I couldn't answer those questions. I could answer them biologically.
Yeah.
I couldn't answer them like spiritually or culturally or traditionally or anything like that because I didn't have it.
Well, and transparently, it didn't It didn't mesh with the industry at the time.
Still doesn't.
Because it was just, it wasn't, it wasn't here it is, we're hunting, here's the climax, here's the end. That's what they were used to.
Why not, Jeremy? I mean, in what sense did it not mesh? What do you mean?
Well, the start of it, right, when it was Blood Origins was, and this was a lot of conversations Robbie and I had, was like, okay, we need funding, right? And funding historically in the industry, in a content realm, came from sponsorships.
So from a business model standpoint, you're saying
from a business model was like, hey, we need sponsorships. Well, this was not traditional content.
I recall. Okay, and just for context, also, who were like the first 3 or 5 episodes? I mean, what was Cuz one of those?
Me, Lake Pickle,
Lake,
Keith Polk, Will Primos, Cuz Strickland, Jim Shockey.
Okay.
We had the who's who.
Yeah,
right?
so there were names that were recognizable. There were stories that were very engaging, right? But from a is Will sitting there holding, a Primos buck roar, and that's that it wasn't that.
Well, and the thing is, I asked. Don't get me wrong, right? I thought that's how it's going to work. We reached out to Primos. Hey, Primos, would you sponsor us?
Almost would seem like a no-brainer at first.
And they're like, again, I'll use Mossy Oak as an example. Mossy Oak, will you sponsor us? Well, will they be wearing Mossy Oak in the episode? And I was like, no. Like, why would they do that? Like, we're doing a service
interview
to the community, but nobody saw that as a service.
Correct.
Because of the industry that was existing.
Yes.
Yeah, we were very commercialized at the point of this is that 2015, 16 time frame, Robbie?
No, later.
Later than that?
Our first piece of content dropped in 2017. So we're only 7 years old, really.
Yeah. So and so you're still you're at I'd see like the back end. This was the problem. The industry itself was struggling with an identity because we're coming out of the heyday of outdoor television at that point.
To Robbie's point, still is.
still is, right?
Yeah.
So they're struggling with identity. And so brands are struggling because at that time, YouTube and influencers, micro influencers, things like that are really making a big upward push. And the industry sitting there saying, well, I'm paying guy X or guy Y $100,000 for their TV show. Like, that's the right way to do this, right? They didn't know, right? They were having difficulties and struggling to figure it out. Not to mention, in the near future, we're about to hit a pandemic that throws everything upside down.
Mm-hmm. And we were an anomaly, like Jeremy said. We were an anomaly to what we were doing, the kinds of stories we were telling. And honestly, it sort of forged who we are today because every single person said no to me.
Yep.
We didn't get a single cent, nothing. From 2017 to 2019, we got nothing. And it was all of my savings accounts. And in 2019, my wife came to me and she said, you need to make this sustainable. I love your passion for it, but you need to make it sustainable. So we sold 2 films. We sold one to Pope and Young, and we sold another to Weatherby.
Yep.
And that made us sustainable. And at the end of 2019, early 2020, actually it was early 2020, just before COVID started coming to fruition, there was a proposal out of California. There was actually 2 things happening. There was an elk thing that happened. I can't remember where now. But the one thing that was the catalyst for Howl as well, was the Senator Wiener bear hunting ban coming out of San Francisco.
Yep.
And at that time, I was like, why is anybody not saying anything about this? This makes no sense. Like, can you not see, somebody say something? And I was like, all right, I'm going to say something. And so we said a couple of things, and it really resonated. And so at that point, friends of mine that were very close to us said, how are you? Number one, they asked the question, how are you funding this? And I said, we're just bootstrapping it.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, they said, turn yourself into a 501c3.
Mm-hmm.
Make yourself a nonprofit because you're in that game. You're in the environmental advocacy game now. So I said, all right, cool. Again, still building the ship as it's being flown, essentially. Yeah. So we build a nonprofit. We get the registration paperwork. I announce on social media that we're a nonprofit. I can still see the video right now. We have like a PayPal. Like, I don't even know. I don't even have a giving platform. I haven't thought about nothing. And like, I think 30 to 50 people gave us money that first day, just like that.
Hmm.
And I was like, holy shit.
In response to the bear comments coming out.
No, to response to us announcing that we were a 501c3 now.
Okay.
We're a charity.
Okay.
So it finally got a business model now that worked.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously the model that I was pursuing wasn't working.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then we challenged, and essentially what we're still doing today, and it's working very, very well, is again, when you look at us and you look at our ethos and you look at our philosophy, we have two. The first one is very much tied to how we started. We are an I am second philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
We will promote the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
If Wild Sheep's doing a great job, we're going to tell the world that Wild Sheep's doing a great job. We don't have an ego to us. And the second is we don't belong to anybody. We belong to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the struggle for all marketing agencies when we first started to get their head around. It was like, what do you mean you have 8 scope companies supporting
Right.
you?
There was no exclusivities.
Yeah, and there still isn't.
Right. Which is completely opposite of how the industry functions.
Yeah. So today, we have people who support us, both individually and corporately, and they get nothing for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like corporate people give us between $25 a month and $5,000 a month
Mm-hmm.
because of what we do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They support what we do every single day, and that's part of our philosophy is that if you look back in time, we are the most consistent, persistent organization in the hunting sphere, pushing back anywhere in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not unfortunately, maybe it comes with some pains and groans, but we're the biggest digitally. We are the biggest non-for-profit pushing the hunting narrative in the world right now.
Yeah.
And we're 5 years old.
Yeah.
Robbie, from an execution standpoint, what is the primary function of the Origins Foundation? Is it primarily promotion of conservational efforts via like film production? Like that's the primary function?
Every single piece of content that you can think of, we build it.
Yeah.
And we build it specifically from a mission standpoint of conveying the truth around sustainable use of wildlife.
Okay.
All around the world. That's all we do. So if you think of a piece of content, we do it, i.e. from commenting on good wolf Facebook pages to being pulled into knockdown dragouts with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jason Momoa, to talking heads about legislation and policy, to educational, informational videos about elephant populations so that you can articulately engage in a dinner conversation or even a conversation online about when someone says, well, how can you hunt an elephant because it's endangered? Here's the information.
Mm-hmm.
To a podcast, to multiple podcasts around the world now, to small length documentaries to huge feature length documentaries.
Yeah, gotcha.
And to conservation's implementation. So that's the other thing that's come into our world, is that we felt like the conservation implementation model of doing business was broken too.
Mm-hmm.
So we find projects, we fund the project, we directly implement the project, and then we tell the world about the project.
Okay. Yep. Which is all a direct result of becoming a nonprofit.
Correct.
Right. Because the other model essentially was, even though in theory it should all still lead to the same direction, it would have handcuffed you. Right? Like if you were responsible to exclusivity X company, Y company, Z company, like they expect things back directly.
I think the only way that we could have done the model, and I give massive kudos to this company because they essentially they've come about in the same time frame as we have come about.
Mm-hmm.
Field Ethos does the same thing. Field Ethos has taken upon themselves as a brand. They don't belong to anyone.
Yeah.
And when they do belong to someone, they belong to multiple of them.
Right.
Right. So they'll equally talk about a Glock, which they probably have a partnership and are getting money, advertising, digital spend through for, same thing as a Henry rifle and a Q rifle and whatnot. So they've got everybody lined up.
Yeah. Just no
And
category exclusivities.
Yeah, they just have no exclusivities.
Yep, that makes sense.
Robbie, what do you? I have a couple questions like swirling, and so you mentioned like the funding of conservation projects is definitely like to me, and it's not at all that the content is not like. I mean, that's the primary function, like you said, and frankly, that's what we do too. You know, it's not like we can go out and plant the tree ourselves, like on a grand scale kind of thing. All we can do is talk about it. Like that's our way of trying to, like, from a grassroots standpoint, build some momentum in a direction. So where do you see like the rubber meeting the road, coming from a Blood Origins or I'm sorry, Origins Foundation or combined?
I still call it Blood Origins.
I'll get there. From like a combined effort, like do you see legislators or like lobbyist groups or XYZ picking up on like content that you guys are creating and like implementing change, or what are you seeing there?
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So we will become, if not already, through smart digital media strategy, the spear tip of information around sustainable use of wildlife in the world. So I'll give you an example. I think next week it'll drop. There'll be an environmental investigative journalism piece coming out of Australia about the Australian federal government's desire to ban the import of 20 new species of animals into Australia. The environmental investigative journalist on that found us, reached out to me and said, I want you to be interviewed for the pro-sustainable side of this investigative piece. I was in South Africa at the time, so I sent her a bunch of videos of us giving food and meat to kids that would not otherwise get meat distributed to them. I had an opportunity to be that spear tip voice, that rational, measured, articulate voice for the hunting side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And she even mentioned it. She was like, you do not sound like I expected you to sound. I.e., I would say things like hunting isn't the panacea for wildlife conservation. We have great things that happen in hunting, but there's also areas that don't need hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the be all and end all.
Mm-hmm.
And when she said, well, what about this? And I said, well, I know that's exactly the argument that's coming out of the anti-side because of this paper and this paper and this paper. And here's why that paper is tied to this and that paper is tied to that. And so we want to be, and we're doing things behind the scenes that, if you Google right now, trophy hunting, you probably see a sponsored ad from us on trophy hunting. And how the conservation benefits that come from trophy hunting. And hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll have enough SEO behind pictures that when you look at the trophy hunting pictures, instead of seeing big fat Americans behind lions like you do right now, you'll see a village eating meat, or you'll see a classroom of kids, or you'll see a clinic, or you'll see all sorts of things that are the benefits that come from trophy hunting. So that, to me, is where we're positioning ourselves. When a topic hits in the world, we are small enough. We're going to continue to be small, even though hopefully our budget grows every year. Nimble enough to be able to pivot, talk about a subject, put a bunch of content out about the subject, so that when somebody is Googling rhino horn trade, all of the information is ours. And we've positioned all that information in front of journalists and editors and opinion editing writers and that kind of stuff. For instance, like rhino horn trade. Rhino horn just got shot down, rejected. 2 proposals just got rejected out of CITES in Uzbekistan literally last week. And now we have a 3.5-year runway to the next COP. Well, we've already bought 20 different rhino horn trade domains. We are positioning ourselves to be the information spear tip for rhino horn trade.
We kind of had this discussion this morning, directly/indirectly, Robbie, about, I don't know how to put it delicately because I'm not.
I think your head's exactly where mine is.
I'm not that.
We're about like, how do you ask
that
this
eloquent
question?
with the words? But a lot of the decision making in conservation, whether in the States or worldwide, is done out of a place of political power, and in many cases, the people in those positions, I would say, should not or are not dependent on that, call it payment, compensation, whatever, for their livelihood, which is how it should be. However, what we see often is power leans into ego, and ego is a tough thing for people to fall on a sword for. And as a result, conservation, or whatever is best for the natural resource suffers. And that's something that Jared and I think, have continued to try to lean on here, at least in the States, is, how do we change that, or how do we find people to be put in those positions of power that are willing to do what's best for the resource and not what's best for their own ego? Does that make sense?
Oh, no, it makes complete sense. And the problem is you can't expect it to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And because the situation we live in today, with very large voices out of the anti-use, anti-hunting establishment all over the world, didn't happen overnight. Didn't happen over the last 6 months. It happened over the last 20 years. They have been formulating a strategy on how to get the people in place, fundraising campaigns, you name it, to get themselves to the point where they need to be to influence decision makers today. We just need to think that way for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And it requires a different mentality. It requires the next generation utilizing the tools at their disposal. We've never had digital marketing tools like we have today. We've never had a social media platform communication strategy like we have today. That all should come into play and factor what we do. The other thing we've never had, that's why we live in the world that we live in, and I've literally said this 5 times the last 3 weeks, the hunting space, the hunting community does phenomenal work for people. So there's a human rights component there. For wildlife conservation perspective, habitat protection conservation perspective, and community. So upliftment of livelihoods all over the world. Yet we fail to champion those 3 narratives at all. And the reason it is that we as hunters, when we communicate with each other, if you went back before 2005, before the advent of cell phones and cameras in cell phones and social media, we as hunters communicated by sending pictures of dead animals to each other. Okay, we used to send them via post, or we used to stick them up in the Bass Pro or the gas station, and here's what it is, right? Today, we still communicate that way, and there's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong here. Okay, I'm not saying we need to change that. However, the viewpoint into that communication has changed, and the analogy that I use is me, Jeremy, and Jared actually sit in a greenhouse. There's this big glass dome over us, and we're showing each other our cell phones. Hey, look at this eland I shot. Hey, look at this whitetail I shot. Hey, look at this turkey I shot. Well, without us knowing it, outside of the glass dome that we're sitting in is a stadium with 100,000 people looking straight through the glass dome over our shoulders at our cell phones, and saying, I don't get this. Like, what's going on here? They're showing dead animals to one another.
Right. No context.
That doesn't make any sense. So 1, we don't have context, but 2, we should be sharing, like, hey, let me show you this little kid that I happen to share a meal with in a community. Or let me show you this clinic that supposedly hunters built. Like, these guys have to walk like 8 hours to get medical attention, and now it's right there 24/7. To me, and the reason why we exist, and the reason why our voice is going to get louder and louder and louder, is that's what we are focusing on. Yes, we go and we take animals very selectively for the tradition or the thing or the recreation or the love of what we do. But the activity that comes as a result of it, which unfortunately is a byproduct, is what we really need to be talking about at every point, at every stage, in every social media post, in every communication. And so it's going to take a little bit of change and a little bit of time, unfortunately, for that to happen, because we're not used to it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, man. And when we look at it, like, obviously from our side, we focus around deer a lot. The average deer hunter in this country, deer have never been a limited resource, right? They drive down the road, they see them, they look in the field, they see them, they run out in front of them, whatever. They go hunting, they see them. But it is a limited resource. And as things like EHD and other stuff start to come and have, major impacts on herd sizes in the area, it's a weird thing to see the average hunter just expect them to be there, right? And that's with any wildlife, across this country. It's like I was talking to my kids. Actually, tell you what, we were watching some old hunting films from Pennsylvania from like the 90s when I was growing up and going to deer camp and stuff. And on Saturday, we would always go out and do a huge ruffed grouse hunt. And my oldest, who's 13, he's like, "What's a grouse?" Because he's not seen one. Like they're just, the population is decimated around here from West Nile and from habitat loss. He's never, as much time as he spent in the woods, he's never seen a grouse before. And so like that was like almost like it caught me off guard, because I'm like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "It's a ruffed grouse." He's like, "I've never seen one before." And so I had to go and like grab, I had, a couple tail feathers mounted and stuff and like talk through, but it was like, it's not that long ago that was, I could go through and flush 12 of those on a 2-hour walk, not too far from my house.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, I think that, again, going back to the original question, I think this all just takes time.
Yeah.
And you've just got to be patient with new rhetorics, new narratives, new directions, new maybe I've said strategies already, but everything just needs a different mindset, especially when you start thinking in the political arena. You're starting to make relationships in the political arena. We're making relationships all over the world. For instance, I'll give you an example. South Australia, there's a lady there called Nicola Centofanti. She was against the bow hunting ban. The bow hunting ban got put in place because of a loophole in legislation in South Australia by a lady called Susan Close. Well, if Centofanti and the Labour government get into power, we've already established a relationship. She's been on our podcast. She's pro-Alf. Boom, boom, boom. Centofanti gets in.
Yeah, bow hunting ban likely gets overturned.
We get it removed. And then at the same time, you put a strategy in place digitally that we know we can target or geofence or be very strategic in pushing message around a specific topic into every cell phone in South Australia. So where we're headed.
So, your experience on like a global level, Robbie, like obviously when we look at like the European model of wildlife conservation, very different than what we have here. Do you think it's easier to, I say easier loosely, do you think it's more feasible in some of those places to start to implement change versus maybe a more uphill battle because of how huge number wise it is here in the States, or vice versa?
I'm not a doom and gloom kind of guy. We're winning.
Okay.
And we're putting runs on the board everywhere, all around the world.
Okay.
America, Louisiana has a second black bear season happening right now.
Yeah.
Florida has the first black bear season happening right now. Colorado, we won Prop 147, and we didn't just win, we killed them by 11%, 400,000 votes. A blue state publicly defended predator hunting with dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge.
Massive. California, starting to like, oh man, think about a second black bear tag. There are big wins happening everywhere. Public national forests are opening. 2 big national forests opened in Victoria for deer hunting. A national park in Northern Territory opened for deer hunting, for hunting in the Northern Territory of Australia. Bontebok just got delisted at CITES, an Appendix 2 animal forever that's revived itself over the last century through hunting and sustainable use. Yes, we didn't get our rhino wins. Yes, we didn't get our elephant wins. Yes, we didn't get the giraffe win. We got something. And I think it's easy to see like the grayness and the gloominess and be like, oh, we're losing. It's like, yeah, but the environment that we live in today, with the organizations that we have today doing things differently, man, you look back 5 years ago and we didn't have us, you didn't have Hal. Like, I think we're winning.
Yeah.
And I see it every day. Like I get into, us more than anybody, because we engage so much in digital media. We engage in so many conversations with people. And it's very hard to measure. That's the hardest thing about my job, is that, like this good, I've gotten in 3 big sort of digital media battles in the last week, say, on accounts that are 500,000 strong accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And when we respond into those accounts, we're not trying to change the person's mind that made them. Like, you're never going to change Good Wolf's mind. You're never going to change Defenders of Wildlife's mind. You're never going to change the, whatever, World Animal Protection Society's change of mind. But I know at least 100,000 people have read what I wrote.
Right, which is an impact.
How many seeds did I plant?
Yeah.
To say, like, wow, I never knew a hunter could talk like that. I never knew a hunter was that articulate. Wow, he makes a good point. I never thought about that. Wow, that data, let me Google that data. Let me see if it's right. Oh, shit, he's right.
Yeah.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Predator Camo.
Man, this one feels good, right? I know people have been looking at this picture over your shoulder for a while now. I think that was 2018, but we just, over the last, how many years, keep coming back to Predator Camo because it's been so damn good for us.
No doubt. I think we bought our first set off of Jen at the Archer Trade Show almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And Jen's still with the company, and the patterns have, only improved since then. They actually were recently acquired within the past couple of years. We've had a chance this past year to go and meet with new ownership, talk about redesigning a lot of the old lines, plans for new patterns, all of the above. So really excited about what's to come, not only this coming year, but in years to come. There's a lot of good stuff coming from Predator.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it's always been going back to that breakup pattern, right? That's the historic look, whether you're talking about the spring greens or brown deceptions or fall grays. Yep. I mean, that breakup is really what's been so powerful for us in a tree stand. And right now, they're letting anyone use the code HUNTR on the Predator Camo website and get 20% off any of the lines, including all the new stuff that dropped here in July.
Be the Predator. Robbie, what percentage of that, like, you seem to have more exposure to, like, the anti or non-hunting, I guess it would be anti-hunting organizations. How many of those are, like, directed at or, like, have a considerable effort looking at, like, whitetail deer hunting, which is essentially the world that Jeremy and I live in,
None.
So it's like 90 of the...
None.
Okay.
0. You know why?
No.
Because whitetail deer make no money for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the big ones are the wolves, bears, the things that people.
So now let's play another conspiracy theory.
That's
what if
interesting.
wolves did really well?
Yeah.
Like they're doing.
In what sense did really well? Like they're thriving in their environment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Populations are great.
Mm-hmm.
Not good for business.
Not good for business.
If you're a save the wolf business.
Yeah.
Save the elephants. Elephants are probably at an all-time high in terms of their population numbers. There's probably too many elephants for the habitat that we have in Southern Africa right now.
That's what we hear as like a fringe person on that. Like, I don't know anything about elephants, but what I do hear is I'm like, boy, it seems like there's overpopulation issues.
Yeah. Can't give an elephant away for free in South Africa.
Yeah.
Offer it. Come get it. I'll give you as many elephants as you want. Come get them.
Yeah. Not good for business if you're a defender of elephants, essentially.
It's not good for the big bingos. We call them bingos, big environmental non-profit agencies.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of save the X, I use this narrative a lot. Save the X, save the polar bear, save the wolf, save the grizzly, save the elephant, save the you name it.
Yep.
That's been the mantra since the early 90s. And don't get me wrong, we needed it.
Yeah.
And it spanned up into the mid 2000s. Today, you don't have to save the X anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Polar bears don't need saving anymore. Grizzlies don't need saving anymore. Wolves don't need saving anymore. Rhinos don't need saving anymore. Rhinos are doing very well in private hands. We need to manage and sustain the X now. We need to figure out how to manage elephants to the benefit of people and livelihoods and communities. We need to figure out how to work towards the next COP to get rhino horn legally traded again. It's been 50 years since 1977 that the CITES put in place a rhino horn ban.
Right.
Have rhinos done better or worse since they've been legally unallowed? It's been illegal to trade rhino horn.
Yeah.
They've done worse.
Yeah.
So the idea is like it's that old adage: do the same thing and expect a different result. Is the
It's insanity.
definition of insanity.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing across the board. And that's why you're starting to see more and more bigger pushes, because just Google elephant conservation. You're going to find 150 to 250 nonprofits in the Save the Elephant business. And they're all going to say the same thing on their websites. 90% of the elephant population has decimated over the last 2 centuries. Well, number one, maybe right, maybe wrong.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
None of us know how many elephants
know.
were in the continent in 1850.
Right.
But we definitely know that we have a tenth of the habitat available today than we had then.
Right.
And we probably have quadrupled the number of elephants in that habitat that we had in 1850 than we have today.
So it can't be sustained.
Unless you want nothing left.
Right.
Unless you want no habitat, unless you're not thinking about from a biodiversity perspective or an ecosystem services perspective.
So are they acknowledging that? Are they acknowledging that there needs to be a change in the conversation from save the to manage the?
There's some circles, sure, absolutely. Yeah. But at the big non-profit circles that have just massive bank accounts, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. And the thing is, they'll be out of business, right?
Yeah.
They will be completely out of business if, for instance, wolves are doing great.
Mm-hmm. Which they are.
You don't need to raise any more money.
Yeah.
Wolves are doing great.
Yeah. That'll be interesting because, I mean, that historically, or at least what it seems like in the recent history, has been, the mindset of like, we need wolves, don't hunt wolves, save the wolves, there's not enough around. And now, I don't know, the conversation sure seems like they're everywhere. There's more than enough out there.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, to me, let's just keep on the wolf debate for a second. The angst from the other side is we're going to go back to where we were.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go back to extirpation.
Right.
And my response to that is we have so many rules and regulations in place today that, number one, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
And number two, I have an example to show you that it won't. Look at Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
Idaho, you can take wolves in any shape or form. There is no season. You can use whatever you want. You can call them. You can snare them. You can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
They take about 400 wolves a year. The population of wolves remains 1,200-ish wolves in Idaho every year.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen. And the wolves are way smarter today, right? It's not like
sure.
When they first got hit, they're just like, what the hell's going on here? And they just got wiped off the planet, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, so there you go. So they're removing enough to keep the population stable, which is what they should be if that's appropriate levels, for the other wildlife. I mean, that to me is always the kind of interesting part when we talk about a predator or fixate on the wolves here for a second, or even like grizzlies in Yellowstone. It's like, what's happening to the other wildlife on the landscape? Like look at the elk in Yellowstone with the wolves and the grizzly side of things. Like that elk population is bombing out. Now, I'm not saying that they weren't overpopulated to begin with. They probably were, but they surely are in a worse situation now than it would be, per se appropriate.
Well, that's all tied to a value.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Then we're getting into a value conversation, which is what do we value? What do we think is important from an objective perspective on the landscape? And so do we want 10,000 elk on the landscape, or we're happy with 1,000 elk on the landscape based on the predator-prey relationship? That's an answer that the national park has to make.
Right.
That's an answer that the visitors of the national park need to make,
because
those are the people that are valuing that specific wildlife.
Yeah.
I'll use an example in Southern Africa. So Madikwe right now. Madikwe is a national park in Northwest Province. It's probably the poster child for a lack of elephant management. Back in the day, an ecological assessment was made, which falsely created a carrying capacity of 250 to 500. We all know, if you live in the ecological world, carrying capacity is this very moving target based on resource allocation and use.
Mm-hmm.
And so today they have 1,700 elephants in
Jeez.
Madikwe. Okay? It's the highest density of elephants in the world. And there isn't essentially a tree over 3 meters standing right now, unless it's behind a fence.
Wow.
Now, everyone says, wow, what a travesty. This is terrible. Too many elephants. It's impacting biodiversity. And sure, it is. But nobody's ever sat down and said, what are the objectives for Madikwe?
Yeah.
Do we want a 50% savanna, 50% grassland? Because if we are, then we've got too many elephants. But if we want a Serengeti and Masai Mara where it's a complete grassland, we haven't got enough elephants yet.
Yeah, you got to keep mowing it down.
So it's a question of like, what do you want? Like, as a manager, as the government, as the visitors, as users, you've got to sit down and ask the question, what do you want? And once you answer the question, what do you want? Then you create thresholds or endpoints for that. So for instance, this elephant condition, what you would do is you say, okay, if you want a 50% savanna, you'd put vegetation endpoints in place that says we want 50% basil tree cover.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what you would do is you'd put a threshold of potential concern of 35% tree cover to say, hey, we're trending in the direction that is 50%.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 35% already. We need to start managing these elephants.
Yeah.
And when it comes to elephant management, there's not much you can do, especially in a system like South Africa. Again, where I said you can't give an elephant away for free.
Yep.
And so you can't translocate an elephant. You can start contracepting an elephant, which is a topic all to itself.
Yeah.
Where you think, these same NGOs that are claiming that elephants are endangered
Mm-hmm.
are willing to contracept elephants.
Yeah, they'll fund that. Yep.
Which is sort of, hypocritical.
Do the same thing with deer on Staten Island and other places. They don't want hunting, but they're willing to provide plenty of resources for contraceptives.
Yeah, but they're not claiming that the whitetail deer is endangered.
No, not at all.
And so an endangered species, you want a population to grow.
Right. You don't want any throttle on that.
So the last thing that you have from a management perspective is culling and hunting. And culling is very controversial.
Yeah, it's a dirty word.
Taken out of the system from the mid-90s.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely back on the table. And Madikwe is the poster child for what is coming. Every single reserve in South Africa that has elephants is on some sort of time gradient behind Madikwe. 10, 15, 20 years.
So if you look at like let's say the tourism of those reserves, or, even take it back home here, and I look at the tourism of a Yellowstone or some of these places, Jared and I talk a lot about having adults in the room, because if it was up to the tourists, they probably are like, I want to see as many elephants as possible, or I want to see as many elk or grizzly bears as possible, right? There has to be an adult in the room that says, yeah, but this place can't sustain that, right?
Well, I'm also curious, Robbie, too, how, if at all, a quality conversation gets interjected into management, because that's what we see, like most, games managed at a state level here in the States. And so it's just purely a numbers game. They're like, we got to kill more. We got to kill less.
Population.
Blah, blah, blah. But like, that's fine. You know what I mean? I want to see, an older age class. I want to see trophy animals. And I'm like, it just seems like in our world, there's a complete miss, or it's just completely overlooked. Like, it's not even a conversation that's being had. I don't know if it's being had in other game species or not.
No, and you're bringing a value judgment because you're a hunter.
Right.
So here's I'll give you a perfect example. When I drove into Kruger National Park last November, Kruger National Park has millions of impala.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very ubiquitous antelope species. As a kid, we used to go into Kruger. The first group of impala, you'd stop your car and you'd look. The second group of impala, you'd stop and look. And then you'd never stop again for an impala.
Right.
Ever.
Yep.
In November last year, I went into Kruger the first time as a hunter. I stopped at every single impala herd. Because I was like, oh, look, there's a mature animal. Oh, that guy's really big. Oh, that guy's really small. I could make those value judgments on age because of the lens that I was looking through.
Yep.
The lens that you just gave me, Jared, is only seen through somebody who utilizes wildlife in a sustainable manner like hunting.
Right.
A tourist doesn't see that. They'll see a big elk,
right?
Okay, and they'll value the big elk. They won't value the fact that he's only 6 versus he's 10.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So to your question about having an adult in the room, the adult in the room is driving the value. And so in Madikwe, again, there's 30 photographic lodges in Madikwe. That's driving the value of the animals. So the more elephants a tourist sees on a game drive, the better
the higher the
value is for the tourist, makes more money, makes more tips.
Yep.
It's a self-perpetuating machine.
Yep.
And Madikwe, again, is unique. There's no public entrance. You have to go to a photographic lodge. There's no hunting. There's no other ecotourism or tourism activities in the reserve itself.
Yep. That makes sense.
So it's all value driven. You can't expect somebody to think about biodiversity as a measure of health of an ecosystem when the bills are being paid by seeing lions and elephant, to the point where Madikwe actually buys prey species, impala, zebra, wildebeest, every year and puts them into the reserve to maintain lion numbers.
Wow. Like a put and take operation, essentially.
No, but for wildlife.
Yeah, for wildlife.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I mean, so to that point, like, is there nobody that is acknowledging the potential crash of that? Like,
for sure there is. What's interestingly enough, they're almost, it's comical at some points, really, because you get unfortunately, like the government, their Northwest Tourism Parks and Tourism Board gets put between a rock and a hard place because they own the land.
Yeah.
The photographics are driving the value. So the photographics have said we want as many elephants as we possibly can have. Well, then you have a big drought, like it happened last year, and 90 elephants starved to death. So the NSPCA, which is essentially the RSPCA here, or Humane Society here, by law is built into the Animal Protections Act as adjudicators and overseers. Went into Madikwe and said, now you've got an animal rights issue. And Madikwe, Northwest Parks Board, why are you not doing something? And they're like, what do you want us to do? Cull the elephants?
Yeah.
The photographic tourism guys won't let us cull.
Yeah.
Even though they don't have a say, they do have a say. And so they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because then they're like, all right, well, now we want to cull. Okay, let's cull. Well, if you don't cull and you just keep talking about this issue, and I've written about this a lot, well, then what's going to happen the next time a drought comes around in 2 years' time or 3 years' time when your elephant population's 1,800 or 1,900?
Yeah, there are more die. Exactly.
300 die.
Yeah.
And the NSPCA is going to throw their hands up again and go, what a travesty. Animal welfare issue. It's like, well, there's a simple way to handle this animal welfare issue.
Yeah. Sustainable harvest.
Is that happening?
And utilization. Let the community benefit from the meat. Let the communities benefit from the leather that comes from it. Let them build products. Let them, all these kinds of things that come from it.
Right.
Is that happening anywhere in the States? Like I'm trying to, a Yellowstone or something is the closest I can think, but they're advocating for the predators and stuff like that. So like, is the phototourism a big business in the States?
Only in your national
parks.
And so the only place I would think that is wildlife driven photographically is probably the Everglades, and Yellowstone. I'm sure there's others that I'm missing, but they're probably more built from a landscape aesthetics perspective, not from a wildlife perspective.
I will say on the flip side, one thing that we have discussed and that I do call it fear is that I think that land values are artificially propped because of wildlife. I think, like, if I look at the Delta, Robbie, like, I think people are buying duck or deer hunting properties for high recreation values. If those wildlife were not on that landscape, that property is not worth what they're paying.
Totally agree. Same thing happening all over the world. If you've got Big Five on your reserve in South Africa, way higher on the land than without it.
And that to me is like it's like a Jenga system, right? Like we're pulling blocks out that, whether it's mismanagement or it's disease or drought or whatever happens, like there's a shakiness to those prices that is, economic overall, impactful.
Overall, I think that you look at, again, the reason why we're positioning ourselves the way that we're positioning ourselves, we believe sustainable utilization of wildlife is key for wildlife conservation. End of story. And the reason being is that today the world's human population is burgeoning. Obviously, it's retracting in certain countries. But for the most part, it's pressing against habitat and it's pressing against wildlife. And for wildlife to exist and quote unquote coexist in those environments that they're getting pressed into, they have to have value. You've heard me how many times on this podcast talk about value.
Yeah.
They have to have value. And that value can come photographically. That value can come aesthetically. That value can come from sustainable utilization. It can come from all of the above. To me, that's the key for wildlife conservation to move forward in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years in these political conversations. I try and boil it down simply. When you look at this world and you put it on a map, you put it on a flat piece of paper and you say, okay, how much of this world do you think is actually conserved habitat-wise? You too. I'll ask the question. How much do you think is conserved? If you looked at the entire world, how much is conserved for wildlife?
Oh, I'd say
Give me a percentage.
15%.
When you say conserved, you mean set aside?
But just
or has wildlife.
Activity.
How much of the world has wildlife?
Yeah.
Probably more than I originally would have said in response to just the conservation question. I would say, I don't know, very high actually. Has wildlife? How much
You'd say very high?
How much of the world has wildlife?
Is protected for wildlife.
When you say protected,
is valued for wildlife.
Valued for wildlife.
Has wildlife on it because wildlife exists in some sort of capacity.
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
So my gut would say between 15 and 22%.
That's where mine was.
I live.
Yeah.
Okay? And the reason I say that is because you've heard of the 30 for 30 agenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means they're looking to protect 30% of the land by 2030.
Yeah. Yep.
We're not protecting 30% of the land right now.
Right.
You follow me, Jared?
Yep.
Okay. So if you take then the 15% and now you extrapolate it to 100%, there's only 7 tools that we have that protects wildlife in this world.
Okay.
Wilderness areas, your jungles, whatnots, your state wildlife, federal, national parks, whatnots, right? Your biodiversity, carbon credit kind of schemes.
Okay.
Your non-profits that sort of the philanthropic model. Okay. Your regenerative agriculture that has some sort of wildlife connection in it, and hunting. Name me another one.
I guess it would fall in the hunting category, but I would say game regulations.
Yeah, but that's tied
category.
in with, hunting as a tool for conservation, wildlife conservation. These are your 7 tools.
Yeah.
That's it. So then going back to the whole anti-use, anti-hunting, why would you want to get rid of one of the tools?
Yeah.
We only got 7 of them.
Yep.
And that tool, when you start looking at it, fundamentally, again, breaking things down fundamentally, the most important thing of those 7 things that happens is habitat protection.
Yeah.
The most fundamental thing you can do for wildlife conservation.
Yep.
As an example, in Africa, hunting protects 1.5 million square kilometers of habitat.
Wow.
It's double all of the national parks, state parks combined.
Jeez.
So when somebody says we want to ban hunting, I'm like, okay, cool. What are we replacing it with?
Yeah, what's going to prop up all of that habitat?
Yeah, what's taking care of the other habitat? And this is one of our jobs. Like, this is one of my things, and it tickles my science nature of who I am. I'm like, I want to prove it. There's proof out there. Let me prove it. And so we're going to announce, it'll happen in the spring of 26, but we've got a web application that we've built with a team out of New Zealand called Wild Vision. That has literally accumulated all of the Landsat Sentinel imagery for any landscape in the world. All I need is a KMZ file. Give me a KMZ file, and you tell me an inflection point. I think we've got data back through 2006. Before 2006, the Landsat imagery gets a little wonky. But from 2006 forward, You show me a block of habitat that is protected by hunting against a block of habitat that hunting was removed.
Yep.
And I'll show you the amount of agriculture that has now moved in and habitat that has been lost.
Yeah, just took it away.
By statistics, by science, to say we've lost 73% of, like, we've got one, the example that we're using is a place called PT East in Tanzania, was abandoned in 2012 because of actually auction block prices got way too high. Well, from 2012 to 2025, that block has lost 52% of its habitat.
To agriculture?
To slash and burn agriculture.
Man, and honestly, that was
gone. It's never coming back.
That's a huge discussion that we just had this morning here about, habitat and call it hunting land here in the States. And in a state like Ohio, we're like, hey, I was willing to pay $5,000-$6,000 an acre. Now you're telling me it's $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 an acre. Like, it's not worth it as a hunter. That is not a smart investment for me, but it will get bought and it will get turned into agriculture. In Ohio, and again, no knock to them, but from the Amish, that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Primos.
Dude, double bull blinds, the original doe can, and who could forget the iconic Magnum buck roar?
I mean, that in a nutshell is Primos for whitetail deer hunters. I mean, that buck roar is by far the best grunt call that's ever been made. I lost it in a CRP field in Kansas, somehow found it, and for the last 10 years, I've been notching every buck that I've called in with that call, and I can tell you there's a lot of marks on it.
There's been a lot of them over the years, man, I can recall. So my dad actually shot that 160-inch 8-point in Ohio a couple years ago. It was double bull blind. I just set that up a few days before, and we've had a lot of success out of those over the years. And so right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, for a discount off anything on the Primos website. That's primos.com.
Speak the language.
It's a complicated place that we're in here. Like, it's really interesting to hear you talk about it like at a global scale. And then so for Jeremy and I, obviously, we're looking at it through the lens of whitetail deer hunters, like in the Midwest or the Northeast.
Yeah.
And it's odd because it's like, I think that the value of a whitetail deer is like way higher than it's ever been. In the sense that somebody will pay, a premium for access to the land that they live on, or, whatever.
Okay.
But I
don't disagree.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like there seems to be there is no anti-hunting pressure. Like I think you endorse that. We're not seeing that in the whitetail deer hunting community. We're not sensing that. You hear that from some people, like, well, we need hunter numbers to remain high because of the anti-hunting community.
Well, if anything, we hear on the opposite. It's like everybody that I talk to wants deer dead. They do. The agriculture, farm bureau, the insurance companies, like, they all want them dead.
So that ties to the number versus quality, conversation I was mentioning, is like none of these. So we've talked to a lot of the state representatives, overseeing the deer programs, whether they're the biologist for the state or they're the deer program leader or the commissioner. And so, like, Jeremy and I, along with, I would say, predominantly hunters, we feel like a lot of these states are, grossly mismanaged from a perspective that we would like to see more of a trophy class of animal that's bred, more of a quality of age class. We feel that it comes with a lot of overall biological benefits, but like that's not happening. Like, that's not an interest of the states. They purely, it seems like, want to kill deer, number one, and number two, give hunters whatever they want. And it's seemingly like the two are at odds with each other, but it's like that's where we get caught up, because it's like the biggest things that we're dealing with now, like in our world of conservation, is like technology and liberalization of seasons. So in all of these states that we're in here, all of these, it's the same world of management, pertaining to whitetail deer. It would be cell cameras or just trail cameras. It would be baiting. It would be, corn piles on the landscape. It would be liberalization of seasons by things like inclusion of crossbows in the archery season. All of these things together and in combination with one another have a massive impact on how we manage the resource. And coincidentally, they're all things that hunters want, like at face value. Like if you ask somebody, said, yeah, we want crossbows. You see that by how many people take it on. Yeah, we want cell cameras. It's awesome to get pictures of them. And so, but on the back side of that now, we're seeing the degradation of the resource. And the thing that everybody wants, whether they'll say it or not, which is to see big bucks, that opportunity is pretty quickly eroding, along with the opportunity to have access to go hunt private grounds, because people with money are going to buy it up. It's becoming, we feel, because of those things, a rich man's sport. And so it's kind of not necessarily like what you're seeing at a global scale because of the anti-hunting, but it's just they're giving us what we want, and it's killing us.
It is a rich man's sport in a lot of cases globally, right? I mean, look at all of Europe. Like, you're not, the average person in Europe is not hunting necessarily, or usually is not hunting. It's usually people of wealth or state access or whatever it might be. So, I mean, you see that in any place that has the European model of wildlife conservation, is it typically leans to a more wealthier individual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Jared, you just nailed it on the head when it comes to value. But I can't help but think that it's very, especially in the whitetail world, but it's almost being like cross-pollinated, unfortunately, with this obviously growing human population, need for more food, rural urban interfaces where, farmlands are being broken up into ranchettes and stuff like that. But it's almost like you've got this value system where everybody values a whitetail deer right now. There's plenty of them, right? We've never had a bigger whitetail population than we have today. Okay.
From a quantity standpoint.
Yep.
No, quantity too.
I said purely from a quantity. I would argue not from a quality necessarily.
Yeah, and I think the quantity issue is what the game and state game agencies are dealing with. They're like, shit, we've got too many deer. Like, how do we knock down deer? So you've got all these things that are being offered to say, knock down more deer, guys. Yes. We're starting to see, obviously, some disease implications as a result of the quantity of animals we have.
Yep.
But honestly, I think it may be a symptom of just time. So if you turn back the clock 25 years... is that what we're going to see in the next 10 to 15 years where, quality is going to drop, numbers of deer are going to stay high, then all of a sudden something's going to happen, people are interested in deer hunting anymore, sort of retrogrades a little bit, the value of deer go down, so Jeremy's 12 grand all of a sudden is like, I'll pay $1,000 for your acre because you really don't have any deer for me that I'm interested in. But the caveat there in today's society, unfortunately, is that because that we can't afford that value to go down, because if that value goes down too much, agriculture is more valuable than wildlife. Rural developments, ranchettes, commercialization, industrialization is way more valuable than wildlife. And once that happens, you're never going to get it back.
Well, yeah. Wouldn't you say it is already, though? I mean, agricultural land sells for much higher than than hunting land does, for instance.
Yeah, but we're willing to pay. Like, that's what I'm saying right now is, like, we're willing as deer hunters, in most cases, to an inflection point. I'm willing to pay as much as the farmer in Illinois is for that hunting land, right? Like, you are too.
Well, no. I mean, like, on the same piece of property, you'd see farmland go for $15,000.
Well, look at the new 80 we just bought.
No,
they'd pay the same rate as we would pay, right?
I think the key here, Jared, is that the places that are being hunted is not prime agricultural area.
Normally isn't.
That's fair. Yep.
And so there's the value distinction.
Well, see, and I think can you not have both though? I mean, you
have both right now.
Exactly. Yeah, you do.
But it can't slip. Like, the hunting value, as it starts to slide down, which we are in jeopardy of from a deer perspective, that's when agricultural will just consume it, because it'll outbalance it. You're not willing to pay the same as the farmer's willing to pay. So I mean, then again, I just saw that Trump signed something this morning that was like a $13 billion bailout to farmers. So, like, it's not like the farmers have it easy right now either, from an agricultural, making money side of things.
Yeah, the whitetail world is a unique world, man. The quality deer management element of it, the change in that, the change in mindset over the last couple of years. What does that look like in the future?
I mean, what do you think, Robbie? Do you talk to a lot of guys that are in that space? I mean, I know you're friends with Dudley, and you mentioned Cuz earlier. Like a bunch of these are, diehard whitetail guys. I mean, what is the sense that do you have a sense of like how people are feeling about how things are going in the management world?
My gut says that those that have land and have access to land are fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would agree with that.
And they're still getting the animals that they value.
Yeah.
Which is big, mature bucks.
Yeah.
So landowners. So rich guys.
Guys who are willing to sacrifice other things because here's where and it's not a
however you want to say it. I mean, it's rich guys at the end of the day.
But you've got the American system is a public land system. It
is.
Oodles and oodles and oodles of acres. Just come to Mississippi. How much acres are public for you to hunt?
A pile
for whitetail deer.
Mm-hmm.
A shit ton.
Yeah.
It's bigger than a pile.
Yeah. Well, right? and where our it's not a disconnect, but like where we have interesting conversations are with primarily the Western guys. Like even take Rogan and Cam and those guys, for instance. They all hunt public land for trophy animals. In some cases, they're hunting private ranches as well. But keep in mind like the public access and what they're doing. And there's a really big mindset disconnect. Like we both kind of want the same thing, but we have to do it via private land, smaller tracts, uber micromanagement, and a lot of what our neighbors do, and definitely what the state provides or guidelines from a regulation standpoint has massive impacts on us. Versus the only thing they really look at is, do I have access to it, and what's the draw status or how do non-residents hunt it? Beyond that, like most of those guys are fleeing into the mountains and they're finding trophy quality animals.
Let me ask you this, Robbie. If you kept up with Ranella's brother, what's his
Matt?
The Hunt Quietly thing?
Matt.
Yeah. Forgive me if
I'm laughing as a result of the answer being
have you guys had some like altercations or just even conversations?
It's interesting.
Physical or not?
Myself and us and Matt Ranella essentially started this whole conversation with Matt. So we had Matt on our podcast.
That's right. Okay.
3 years ago. We were the original people who brought him on.
Okay.
And it was like the second podcast that he just railed against his brother and railed against Rogan, and we just like, look, I think that he's not wrong.
Right.
Agree.
I feel like Matt. I think that there's opportunities. How am I going to say this? I think the idea of like moaning and groaning against R3 and people locking up access and whatnot, I think is not a fruitful activity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number one, I don't think it's going to change. Number two, I feel like because of America, and me being a foreigner and now being an American, and if I owned land in this country, I have free will of what I want to do with that land and who I want it to do it with.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't have to keep it open to door knockers. If I want to make more money on it for somebody and it becomes a rich man's purse to get into my land, that's my prerogative. Nobody else's prerogative. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
However, on the flip side, Matt has a Hunters for Access program that I think is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love it. I think he's doing a yeoman's job there. I told him, and I told him on a podcast, and I told his whole team, I said, stop dedicating your energy, because you only have a finite amount of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Stop directing your energy to bitching and moaning about
the influencers. Yeah. I agree. We told him
R3,
the same thing. Mm-hmm.
Focus your energy in Hunters for Access. Dude, you'll have 1 million acres under your Hunters for Access program, and you'll be cheering.
Yeah.
And you'll be essentially doing everything that you're bitching and moaning about, but you'll actually be doing it.
Yeah. We agree, Rob. We saw, as far as like the observation of the issue, we were like 100% with Matt. We're like, yeah, you're absolutely right. That is happening. It's black and white. we just felt like his frustration and, like you said, his energy was directed like at the wrong place. Like I can't be mad at anybody for promoting the thing that they love.
Though. His motivation is he feeds off of that negative energy to a point.
That's fair. Ours was towards the game agency. So it's like, okay, if you're unhappy with how, the wildlife or the landscape is being managed, don't be mad at the people who are, talking about it or promoting. Like ours is at the people who can regulate it, you know what I mean? Which is the game agencies.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't necessarily know. I mean, in some cases they are, but I don't necessarily believe that influencers are effective at recruitment anyways. I don't think that they are. I think in some cases, maybe a Rogan or Haynes is getting, but ultimately...
I mean, objective was not the right... I mean, definitely at a micro level, I mean, they definitely are. Like you see... that area. What state was that? Was it Tennessee and the hunting public and stuff? Like there's small examples you can point to say like, wow, there was one.
But I don't think they were bringing in new people. I think they were just bringing in people from out of state into those things.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're recruiting new hunters as much as they're just. And this is the internet in general, right? We're guilty of it. Is we're lifting the veil. Like it's like, hey, it's easy to go to X state and hunt. Like just pull up your Onyx and do whatever.
Again, I really like Matt, and I like his position. I like his passion, and it is echoed all around the world from a global perspective. Like as I said, I just came back from this big tour, and if you ever go hunting Namibia is a German Afrikaans culture.
Okay.
It's almost like divided. Germany was the original colonizer of Namibia. Then South Africa took over, so you got both an Afrikaans and a German influence on it.
Okay.
And one of the things that the NAFA, which is the Namibian Association of Professional Hunters, prides itself on is its ethics and its ethos and the things that is Namibian hunting.
Okay.
And that thing that is Namibian hunting is essentially this old school, traditional, hard hunting. Like you're going to come spend 10 days with us. You may or may not get a kudu.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is like a matronella. Is like, I remember back in the day, this is how I hunted. This is how I remember hunting. This is how I want everybody to take hunting forward. I believe this ethos is correct. This is what I want to imbue on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing's happening in Namibia. You've got very, old school individuals. There's a guy called Kai Uwe Denker who... old school German, doesn't even have a phone. When I said, let's connect over WhatsApp, he goes, I don't have WhatsApp. You'll have to hear from my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And there's elements of that you want to cherish. There's elements of that you feel like, man, this should be a part of hunting today. You should it should be hard.
Right.
It should be something. It's sort of I think either it's type 1 or type 2 fun, right? It's type 2 fun where it's like you hate it in the moment.
Yep.
But then you think back on it and go, fuck, that was fun.
Amazing. Yeah.
And so I think that there's elements of that. I think that people are, there's elements of yesteryear's hunting that we want to bring forward into today's society of hunting, but yet we'll have to compete with all these other factors that complicate it. The trail cameras, the amount of animals on the landscape, the competitive environment that is now Africa hunting, the ideology that has been built that when you go for 7 days, you're going to get 10 animals in Africa. It's a whack and stack 'em kind of scenario.
Right.
You've just got to, it's almost like you can't fight this wave. You have to figure out a way to work with the wave and go, okay, I have an ethos, I have an ideology, whether it's a matronella, whether it's an offer, whether it's sustainable use of wildlife. You go like, how do I get elements of what I believe in embedded into this wave? And maybe one day that wave will hit the shore and turn around and start coming back. And I'm the part of that wave that's coming back.
Well, Robbie, let me ask you something on the personal level from an origin side is how are you treating hunting with your kids?
I travel too much to hunt with my kids, which is a terrible thing to say. I hope to whitetail deer hunt in the next 4 weeks or 5 weeks with them for the first time. I've pretty much, obviously I'm on the road a lot, right? I'm on the road 180 to 190 days a year.
Wow.
Last year was 80 flights in 11 countries. But I am starting to balance more, but I'm also of the opinion that, my kids know what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I send them pictures, I send them videos, I send them things. And the oldest one's into scouts, loves the outdoors. I told him, hey, we're going hunting this next 4 or 5 weeks, and he was pretty excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in the pushing.
Yep.
I'm not the pushing kind of dad kind of environment. Like, hey, we're going hunting, and you're coming with me. And
Yep.
But if they start getting curious, which they will be, and next year this time, I'll take the kids and my wife to South Africa for the very first time. So they'll get introduced to the people that I know. We'll obviously be around the right kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get to experience Africa, and they'll get to experience hunting for the very first time down there. And so I'll let them decide, like, if this is something for them or not. I'm not going to say this is definitely something that you have to do and you have to be a part of it. And am I missing out on putting things in front of them, or are they missing out because I'm not putting things in front of them? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's almost the thing that you've just got to wrestle with internally. Each and every one of us, listening to this podcast, wrestle internally, like, where do you focus your life work balance?
Mm-hmm.
And what is important to you in life? And some people, it's like, it's all family, and that's great. I'm a family man, but to me, like, this thing that we've built is such a freaking mission, and it's just there's a purpose behind it that it's hard to ignore. And unfortunately, you gotta have sacrifices tied to a mission like we've undertaken, and that sacrifice is time away from family and time away from potentially, giving the thing that I'm defending the most every single day, which is hunting, to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie, do you personally have like a hunting schedule from year to year? Like, do you get to hunt for yourself? I mean,
it's so funny you ask that question. Everyone thinks I hunt all the time.
I never thought that.
All over the world, right? Like just stacking them up.
I rarely get to hunt, but I am starting to again figure out that work-life balance.
Yeah,
so
it's crucial.
So every so often on a project, we get an afternoon to hunt or a morning to hunt after a project. And to me, that's okay. It wasn't ideal. And so now, and I keep a lot of my hunting personal because I don't ever want to be seen. Perceptions are 9/10 of reality. And so, if Robbie's hunting all over the world all the time, everyone's like, well, what is he doing from a nonprofit perspective? All he's doing is hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So this trip down in South Africa, I actually bought a hunt myself. I went on an auction and I bought a hunt last year. And I went on my first, like, I was the client for 7 days hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And it was everything I hoped it was. It was 118 kilometers of walking in 6 days. It was a traditional, true, like, African hunt that I was after. Yeah, I don't have much hunting planned on my calendar for next year.
Yeah,
it's a full calendar. But hopefully with my kids in Africa in November, as I said. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm struggling to answer the question because, again, I feel inherently bad when I hunt.
Interesting.
Because I feel like I'm not dedicating the attention of that moment in that day to the thing that I've built and the mission that I've built. I have, again, I'm a terrible example of a work-life balance kind of individual. I love to work. It's just how I'm built.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot go to the beach and spend 4 days on the beach and do nothing. It drives me up the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, work-life balance is, I'll give you an example. So this August, I went to South Africa with a friend of mine. He won a hunt. He was the guy who introduced me to hunting, the redneck that put me under a tree.
Yeah.
And he won a South African hunt. And I said, I'm going with you. Like, I want to be right next to you when you experience Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that trip, we went with an outfitter that I knew. I did work for the outfitter. We did some story work. And I'd wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And I would do the work that I needed to do until 7:30. We went out hunting, got home at 11. I worked from 11 until 3 o'clock. We went out hunting, came back, had dinner, went back to work until 9 o'clock, and we went to sleep.
Yep.
To me, that's as work-life balance as I can get.
That's pretty good.
It would seem to me, Robbie, like they're, at least have the potential to be fairly integrated. I mean, a lot of the work that you're doing is around the promotion of, hunting or of management. It's like, it would seem like they're fairly easily tied together, no?
Yeah, they are, absolutely. But work comes first in my brain, right? So like we were in Makuzi Falls. I'll give you another example. We're in Makuzi Falls in April. Probably the premier Nyala hunting destination in South Africa. Bar none. You see 60, 70 Nyala a day, and big ones. But we were there to do work. We were there to do a rhino documentary. We were there to do a family piece, and it turned into a lion conservation documentary at the same time because lions were breaking out left, right, and center. And we did that work for 10 days. And the final afternoon, we went Nyala hunting. And true to hunting form, we saw only 10 in Nyala that afternoon, and none of them were big enough to shoot. And so that was the hunt.
Yeah.
And so it's that's really that epitomizes the example of the world that I live in. We get to see and meet incredible people, see incredible landscapes, tell incredible stories. And the hunting opportunities are unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we just don't get to do it.
How tied, Robbie, is that work, or are those stories tied to hunting? Is that every time? Is that half the time?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah. So right now, obviously, we changed our name to be more sustainable use of wildlife. It used to be Convey the Truth About Hunting. Yeah. Now it's Convey the Truth About Sustainable Use of Wildlife. And sustainable use, 70% of it's hunting. But now we're getting into stories of like, we're about to undertake a story on carp up at the Mississippi River and the sustainable utilization of carp, sustainable utilization of lionfish out of the Caribbean. So you're taking invasive species, iguanas, that kind of stuff. Those kinds of stories where it's almost beyond hunting, but it's still the utilization of a resource that benefits people, benefits wildlife, and benefits ecosystems. That's where we want to go.
Very cool. Yeah, man, it's wild in that. I think I appreciate kind of I've referred to it as the fringe look into a lot of the things that you guys are doing. And I try to take it and relate it to like what's firsthand that I have here, whether it's like, I mentioned the grouse stuff or, deer obviously is the closest to heart, but it's neat to see the global aspect of things because it makes you feel like we're not so distant on a lot of those global issues. Obviously it's not easy to relate to like what the elephants are doing here or what the lionfish is doing there, but still from a standpoint of understanding the concept, right? And the fundamentals of what's happening there and how things are happening are very much similar to the concepts that we're dealing with at home, even though it might be a completely different system of management or funding there. But yeah, I hope people listening to this can kind of bring that back to their own lives and understand the perception. The one thing I want to mention before we let you go is, and I don't remember, you'll know the time, what year or what episode did you do Lisa's piece?
My wife?
Yeah.
Gosh, she actually told me to pull it down off the internet because she obviously was getting bigger in the horror writing space.
Which I understand.
We had moved to Bay St. Louis. I think it was 2018. Must have been 2018, 2019.
I think that was the defining piece for me. And I know we struggled at that time. Again, we talked about it earlier of trying to piece the industry into it. But that piece was probably what I would consider the most bold piece that you guys had done for two reasons. One, the relationship, obviously, between you and Lisa, and that we knew when that piece was coming out that this is not what people were going to expect coming from, at the time, Blood Origins, right? Because Lisa's story was very much Like I'm not a hunter and I don't necessarily understand it. And I thought that piece may have been the first, I like to use the term disruptor to what Blood Origins and now the Origins Foundation's future look like. Because now if I look back at some of the stories that you guys have done here, you know, in the last 2-3 years, there's a bunch of them that resonate Lisa's original piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're definitely not known for not disrupting.
Right.
We definitely love to ruffle feathers and sit outside the box as often as we possibly can, because I think that there's opportunities all the time. Like, you know, we love podcasting with vegans and we love podcasting with vegetarians, and we love finding the people that like speak our language but aren't in our community. And you're like, hey,
yeah,
it's okay. Like, there's others that are like it, but they don't like us, but they don't have to be hunters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and at the end of the day, we're not trying to convert everybody, like we've talked about earlier. We're not trying to convert everybody to be hunters. At the end of the day, all I want someone to say is, I still don't like hunting, but I understand it.
Right.
That's all I want.
That's a huge step.
It happens all the time.
Yep.
Not daily, but weekly. We get
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And so when I say we're winning, we're getting wins on the board all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you just have to think about yourself, or you think about people around you, or watch the next time you're in an airport, watch people on social media. How many people are voyeuristic in the social media space?
Mm-hmm.
I would say 80% of people are voyeuristic.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that means the more I can say something, the better, because 80% of the people are never going to comment, never going to like, never going to share, but they're going to watch and they're going to read and they're going to take in what I've just written and go,
Yep.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah. Planted seed.
That's it.
Before we let you go, if people want to support Origins Foundation, what's the best way for them to do it?
Go to the originsfoundation.org. We have 2 mechanisms. I'd love for you to come on as a monthly supporter. We give a bunch of things away. I think by the time this podcast comes out, the 12 days of Christmas is over, but we have a Bless Box Slam hunt in South Africa.
Cool.
Which you can win for the cost of a cup of coffee a month. So we ask $5 a month. That's it. If you're a company, we have a corporate conservation club that does the same thing and supports us monetarily on a monthly basis. But yeah, if you don't have money, I get it. Just share our content. That's all we ask, is share, learn the content, and feel confident enough to talk about it. And if you feel confident enough to talk about it, just give a 1-liner or 2-liner and then say, go check out the Origins Foundation. We're not hard to find.
Awesome. Robbie, are there any recent films that you've put out or that are upcoming shortly that you're particularly excited about or wanting people to check out?
Yeah, we got some really cool things coming. Obviously, we're deeply involved in our cheetah project, which could be a podcast to itself. We did the world's largest relocation of cheetahs this year. So we're building a huge documentary around that. We did a documentary out of elephants in Botswana called A Fine Balance. That just released. We got a cool documentary coming on a guy out of British Columbia called Michael Schneider, called Takla, and how he engages the indigenous community in Canada.
Wow.
It's a really good piece. In June of next year, we're debuting a film in Paris called Sauvons Bambi, which is Saving Bambi. So the original narrative against hunting, which is the Bambi film, is a documentary across France and Belgium of how hunters go out every year between middle of May and middle of June, and they use thermal drones to capture baby roe deer and save them from being chopped up by combines and harvesters.
Whoa.
Incredible story. We're working on a big, it won't be released until probably mid next year, documentary on the big tuskers that got killed in Tanzania and Kenya. We've got a documentary coming out in spring called Tides of Change, which is how hunting has saved sea turtles off the coast of Georgia, Ossabaw Island. We're working on a wild horse documentary right now in Arizona. We've got a documentary in Colorado called Wolves in Denver, all about pilot box biology and the consequence of checking the box. Yes,
Yep.
i.e. introducing wolves.
That's crazy, man. That's a lot of content.
And I think I'm missing like 10 pieces
That's
now.
wild, though.
So, yeah, from where we started, Jeremy, to
I know.
now,
Well, that's what
it's
I'm
like,
saying, man. It's like it literally is the global vision that we discussed 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, and we're on the rocket ship right now. And I'm barely holding on with my left hand and just saying, okay,
Wow.
let's keep going. And 26 is going to be bigger, man. We've got some really cool pieces. We're taking our first steps in the United Kingdom in 2026. As I said, we're starting this big rhino trade docu-series in 26. Yeah, it's
awesome,
exciting
man.
stuff.
Very cool.
Well, very cool, dude. Well, we appreciate you spending some time with us this morning and having those conversations. That's stuff that, you know, obviously on a global level, but Jared and I are super passionate about on a you know, states-based level, and I think a lot of our listeners will be as well. So appreciate you coming on, and hopefully people will check out the Origins Foundation. And hang on one second, I want to just make sure everything uploads.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Bushnell.
Man, what an iconic brand. I mean, I vividly remember growing up, it seemed like every serious deer hunter had a Bushnell pair of binoculars or a Bushnell rifle scope. You knew that those guys were serious about what they were about to go with if they were packing the Bushnell stuff.
No doubt, man. I remember Bone Collector guys and so many others that we've respected over the years. It's always been like your grandpa's rifle scope. And since then, obviously, they've developed so many great products. We're rocking the R series of binoculars this year. I believe it's the R5 10x42s. Those have been awesome. We took those to TAC a couple weeks ago, along with the Broadhead rangefinder. It's got a ton of technology packed into it for angles and for bow hunters ultimately. So that's been awesome.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, we've talked about this with a lot of the brands we're working for, is we want high quality gear that's affordable, and that's exactly what Bushnell's trying to position here. They want to make really good gear that anyone that's serious about deer hunting can afford. And so most of those R5 series binos that we're talking about are under $300 for unbelievable glass.
No doubt. And so for right now, you can use code HUNTR, HUNTR, to get a discount on the Bushnell website. That's bushnell.com.
Robbie
Very
Kroger.
Very cool.
Brother.
Yeah, dude, he's been at it for a while now.
It's funny,
Come a long
like just
way.
even going through that content, like I, again, step back like 7-8 years of where we were and what we were doing. It was like, profile stories, Cuz Strickland, Will Primos, to now, like these are giant conservation issues for countries and continents. It's like, yeah, some of it's out of reach for us, in terms of the relationship. The storyline and the meanings and the motives are relative. But like, even like we were just talking there offline, like something around whitetail in the US is much needed, because it's just a failed system, right now, and or a failing system. I look at it as like it's like we're driving in a truck and the check engine light's on and we're just ignoring it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's running and we're driving. It's fine. Like I'll get to work and I'll get home, but at some point I'm going to be driving and all of a sudden my dash is just going to light up and the truck's just going to seize up and shut down.
Right.
And that's where we're heading from a standpoint of the resource, the hunting community. Like I said, I think that there's a bunch of people that are standing on the edge about to be like, yeah, this is stupid. Like, why do I do this? And just step off, and they're just done.
Well, I thought it was interesting that like he deals a lot with the anti-hunting communities. Like he engages with them head on, and he's like, yeah, they have no interest in deer hunting. Like
It's the first time that somebody with credibility has said it's not a threat.
Yeah. Well, and we're sitting here like we've never felt that. I mean, unless you were to go and do something obscene, like, dude, nobody likes to see whatever abuse of wildlife or like,
even the picture
cruelty or something like
the picture I sent you the other day of that bolt in the back of that buck's head.
We all hate that,
and
especially hunters.
That's in an urban area, right? So like that's where you see it, and it's like all these non-hunters are just like up in arms about it, and they should be, because I don't want to see that.
And so should
stuff.
we. I don't want to see that either.
No, but from like a threat to deer hunting, we're not even on the radar.
Exist. Yeah, and it's interesting how those are like the more polarizing species. It's like they're predators in a lot of cases, that are looked at by
Wolves,
the anti-hunters
bears.
as the cute cuddly ones, the ones that are...
They're the spiritual, connected, animals.
Which I'm all for. I mean, there's just because we aren't, we don't hunt those species necessarily, you and I personally, that doesn't mean they're not important. I mean, they definitely have a place there. But I think that's where Robbie's, the controversy, frankly, fuels his business just like it does the anti side of it. His is more for it from a positive, let's harness this, let's use this, let's conserve so everybody's happy kind of a thing. It's interesting where that leaves the prey species, essentially in the meantime, which is what most hunters by far are pursuing.
So if you're looking at it, you're like, are they threatening my deer hunting? No. Are they threatening my turkey hunting? No. Are they threatening my bird hunting? No. They don't care about any of that stuff. Do they care about predator hunting with dogs? Yes. They care about wolves? Yes. They care about bears? Yes.
So what do you think, like, let's just have an objective conversation after, what do you think is the biggest threat to deer hunting?
Right now, I think the regulations.
But more directly, like, what do you think is
access?
It'd be access is probably a big one.
Regulations drive all of the issues that we currently have. Access being, if I had to say what is one of the biggest things, it's access. Because access is going to kick a bunch of people out from deer hunting. It's going to blow up deer numbers because people aren't going to kill does. They're just going to target bucks, and they're going to lock down areas, and they're going to be the elephant, right? Like we're going to have a 40-acre block that's got 75 deer in it.
All right. Well, here, just for fun, this may take 10, 15 minutes.
Okay,
but let's,
that's fine.
like, okay, so before saying what do we think fundamentally is a threat to, like, what do we think is, what would be a goal? Like, what do we want out of, of deer? You know what I mean? For deer
I want
hunters.
a balanced age structure, number one. I want a healthy population and a balanced age structure.
Okay.
That if you can accomplish a healthy population and a balanced age structure, I think that you won't have access issues.
Okay.
Because that's a landscape level application. If there's healthy populations and a balanced age structure across the landscape, then public land doesn't suck in theory. Pressure can still kill it, right? We know that. But if I have a balanced age structure and a healthy population, I don't feel the need to lock down as much access as possible for myself or my group because I have ample opportunities on a appropriate amount of land.
So like a balanced age structure, number one.
Tied in with a healthy population, because I can't have a balanced age structure and low deer numbers.
And a reasonable number of them.
Yeah, because if I have low deer numbers, then I do have to occupy more land in order to capture the balanced age structure. So if I have healthy deer numbers and I have a balanced age structure, that solves the majority of the issues that we're dealing with today.
And generally, we'd say, like across, the area that we're looking at, which would be the Midwest, the whole eastern, part of the United States, essentially, we would say we're probably lacking in the
age structure,
age department.
Yep, I would say we're pretty good in a numbers department. In most places, still overpopulated.
Some high in some areas and some low in other areas.
Yeah, I would say like on my Kentucky farm, I'm low. Yeah. I have a low deer population. I probably have a more balanced age structure than most places, though.
And probably a multitude of factors as to why that is. Like we've speculated in ag areas that it's maybe tied to herbicides, pesticides. In less ag areas, like where I'm at in Ohio, I think it's more tied to mismanagement, just frankly, of like that's where you're starting getting into your regulations and stuff like that.
In my area, I bet I have a balanced age structure, but I have a low deer population due to disease, probably number one, impacts of EHD just lingering, potentially regulations when you talk about baiting, and probably something around lower reproductive rates because of poorer soils and or recruitment rates because of predators.
Okay. So basically, we just want a high quality, huntable population of deer, that's in check with a reasonable number for all stakeholders.
With a balanced age structure. And it goes back to what we've talked about before, is where the guy who wants to kill a buck, ample number of them. The guy that wants to kill a big buck, there's a lot of those middle-class deer there too. And the guy who wants to pursue the trophy, it's hard, but they exist on the landscape.
I guess, do you think most people would be on board with, like, who would be opposed to a balanced age structure? Anybody?
Nobody.
Like, everybody's like, yeah, it would be cool, or it would be advantageous to everybody if there was mature deer on the landscape. Or does it not matter at all to most people?
I don't think it matters at all. I mean, the guys who want to kill a big buck, quote unquote, they're not thinking about maturity. They're thinking about antlers.
Okay. But an adult in the room, as we like to say, would look at that and say, okay, same thing.
Yeah, we want trophy.
You want the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and I don't think anybody, to be honest, I mean, and I'm going to be pretty hyper-focused here just because of the states I'm looking at. I would say Illinois and Pennsylvania have a pretty balanced age structure right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not bait states. I would say that Pennsylvania has a ample deer population as well, if not an overpopulation.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois in places is barren, and that's, I don't know, disease, agrochemical. I don't know. I'm not sure what the reasonings are there.
Right.
But I would say that those two states that I have experience with have a very balanced age structure. They're not bait states. Coincidence? I don't know. Probably not. Because I can't target as well.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously, I mean, man, there's a lot of factors, like across every state's different. The agricultural environment, just the habitat basis, and the way that.
Would you argue that Illinois is not a balanced age structure?
Well, granted, our experience is in a small.
That's what I'm saying. It's hyper focused. I mean, I would say our area is pretty balanced, right?
So basically, all I have is to areas that I've been, like my exact experience, or people that we talk to directly. I would say it's better than.
Let me specify this.
Some areas where there's higher hunter densities.
Not to interrupt. Balanced age structure is not equal numbers of deer in each age class. That's not a balanced age structure.
Mm-hmm.
Biologically, a balanced age structure is a proportionately bend in the age structure itself, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially, in a balanced age structure, the most individuals let's just focus on bucks, right? Mm-hmm. The most individuals, 1.5, right? That is the lion's share of the individuals. Therefore, then a proportionate amount of individuals make it into 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 plus. That's a balanced age structure.
Interestingly enough, and this rarely gets talked about, we've brought it up a few times, but it's, and who knows what level of impact this has here. I do think that nationwide, like our doe age class to buck age class is probably has never seen a point of equilibrium. Like I would say that doe populations nationwide are probably, dude, I don't know, at least 2 to 3 years
in terms of the average age,
older than the bucks that we see.
Absolutely.
So in any given state, like on average, the oldest, I don't know, just how you
think about an average age of a buck in Pennsylvania being 2.5, right? It's probably 4 or 5 as a doe.
Yes,
absolutely.
I would agree,
no doubt.
And that's a that's a product of hunting pressure,
selectivity,
of hunting pressure. Well, and just also, I mean, we can't tell the age of bucks, let alone does.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, the only indicator that most people can go on is how big are the antlers.
Yeah, and I mean, in a doe standpoint, it's like, is it an adult or is it a fawn?
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of us can look at it and say,
a lot of us can't even tell if it has horns or not.
Yeah, yeah. They're surely not counting points.
Yeah, case in point, I'd like to say that the antler restriction in Pennsylvania is like case in point. The state doesn't, believe that we can.
We're not smart enough to do anything but count points, and even in that is a subjective.
Barely.
In the hard part about that is like that implementation has worked. We got past 90% of our buck harvest being 1.5-year-olds because of antler restrictions, and we have one of the best age class distributions we probably have ever had in the state. The downfall is we're high grading the population at this point.
It comes with some pretty severe downsides.
I mean, the number of 4, 5, 6 point mature deer that I've seen on camera and or being harvested where illegal is astronomical, and that should never be the case.
Honestly, to do it over again, I mean, and who knows, like the mentality then versus now, like I'd do it another way. I'm not personally a fan of the antler restrictions for that. I think they're that detrimental from the high grading standpoint.
Well, I mean, to the earlier point, we're too dumb. There's no other objective.
Sure, there are. I would do something like you could do an earn a buck. I know it's not popular kind of thing, but like I would use a totally different tactic.
Yeah, and I mean, to Gary Alt's point, like our goal was not to create bigger bucks. It was to incentivize harvest of does. So an earn a buck would have achieved that.
And we probably would not have the negative consequence that we do today. That probably would have been a way better way to do it.
Yep. Yeah, we probably would have higher scoring deer in the state right now with the similar age structure production.
Yeah, so hindsight, 2020 kind of a thing. But
well, it's why, people can point out the flaws. I'm an advocate of, I think earn a buck is a very good way to control antlerless deer numbers.
We're so entitled to like be able to go shoot our buck just because it's like, dude, everywhere else in the world does earn a buck. You know what I mean? We talked to Robbie has said it, like in Australia.
Pedro.
We talked to Pedro. Anybody, they're all like, yeah, of course. Like
you have to,
shoot does to.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the fear of, well, people will quit hunting. Well, why? Well, because you're going to make them shoot a doe. Yeah, that's the ethical conservation responsibility, is to manage the herd, not to kill their buck. They're not entitled to kill a buck. That's bullshit. A hunter is a conservationist. Their goal is to keep, to their language, I say the agency's language is to manage the deer population. Killing a buck doesn't manage the population. Killing the doe manages the population. Well,
and everybody, hunters included, want to see an equal, the population in check. So like it's to everybody's benefit that we're killing enough animals.
And there are absolutely places that it does not need to happen. For instance, I haven't killed a doe in Kentucky since I've owned either property. There's no deer there. If I remove a doe, I'm causing a detriment to the population there. There's no reason. In fact, I'm still boggled why I don't have better deer numbers when I think there's 20 to 30 does taken in the entire county every year. Entire county. And yet our deer numbers are still not rebounding. That's a mystery. I don't know what it is. I'd love to do research or figure something out there. I don't know what is causing that. There are other places. Your farm, for example, is an earn a buck would be probably beneficial. There's way too many does there.
I agree.
Way too many does.
Yep.
So, I would say in our Illinois farm, I don't think an earn a buck's necessary.
Not so much.
Population's in check with the habitat. I think it's perfectly fine. In Pennsylvania, there are definitely plenty of places. I mean, you talk about mismanagement. Look at the city of Pittsburgh or the surrounding areas. 2B, as a wildlife management unit, if you're familiar with the area, they just keep increasing the doe license allocation. That's not killing more does. There's nowhere to hunt. Forcing the hand of an earn a buck, meaning kill your doe before you kill your buck, would reduce the deer densities in those areas. You don't need to give more doe license. You need more incentive or more reason to kill a doe, which is that. So again, and then we talked about this on the Hunt Companion or something, but there should be some I wish there was an organization or an oversight committee or something that has these discussions at a level down to the states to be like, guys, why are we Missouri, and we know Sumner as well, Jason Sumner, why are we not considering earn a buck in Missouri, but you're considering paying a bounty on does? That seems crazy. What's the reasoning? I'm sure there's something. I don't, maybe I don't agree with it, but I'm sure there's some reasoning like, hey, we're going to piss too many people off if we make them kill a doe before. Okay. Well,
that's all it is. They just say people aren't going to like it.
I think
That's what the answer is 9 times out of 10. People aren't going to like it.
I think you're devaluing does by putting a bounty on their head.
You definitely are. Yeah, absolutely.
You get somebody from the state of Pennsylvania that tells me I need to value does more, and you got a state like Missouri that's telling me, yeah, we'll pay you $100 to kill them. What? So I just think that we're just, again, I think it's a great analogy. We're in a truck, we're driving down the road, and the check engine light's on. Something is broken. Maybe we are not the mechanic. We don't know everything, but something's wrong.
We're the check engine light.
Yeah. We're saying something is wrong and that it needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed before the shit blows up.
Yeah.
Before we start smoking on the berm of the road, we need to fix it. And I don't have all the solutions of it. I haven't propped the hood up. I don't know what's under the smoke, but like there's something that's an issue, and pretty much every state. I think even Iowa is not exempt from this. There's probably an issue in every state that is fundamentally, if you fix it, you're on the up and up to a better deer hunting experience for the people that are in your state. But
yeah,
you got to have somebody that's willing to pop the hood. Pop the hood and
try something.
Yeah,
some of it's common sense. Some of it's basic stuff. It just needs done.
I agree. So, anyways, we appreciate Robbie Kroger. Really good cause. I think check out those videos if you guys are interested in supporting the Origins Foundation. You can check out their website. We appreciate you guys listening to this episode of HUNTR Podcast, and we will catch you on the next one.
Later.
Take me